Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Led Zeppelin's debut 1969 album, usually just called Led Zeppelin I, because their first four albums were just all called Led Zeppelin. It's pretty decent. It's got lots of good stuff here, but there's nothing really super outstanding, in my opinion. It's pretty good for a debut and pretty good overall. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 6 out of 9, 2/3 of the album. Both sides of the album are pretty similar. The album as a whole is mostly sort of an American rock sound from the late 60s. It's got a good emphasis on instrumentation and sort of solo, mostly with the guitars. It sounds a bit unpolished, but that's not necessarily a bad thing in this context. This album, it really sounds like the band just sort of went into the studio and played what they would normally play at a bar or a club for about an hour or so, and then, just had that as an album, which it really kind of enhances some of the songs, in my opinion. A lot of these songs wouldn't really fit on an album with a more regular vibe, because the album just as a whole is full of these songs, the songs feel correct. It's kind of an interesting little aesthetic they have going here. There were no singles released before the album, but my favorite song here is probably Communication Breakdown, for sure. I like the shorter songs on this album better than the longer ones, because longer ones tend to go a lot of different places, which makes them good because they usually go good places, but they do tend to sort of meander on a little bit. So I prefer the shorter songs, and Communication Breakdown is definitely the best of the shorter ones here. It's really quick and nice. It doesn't slow down at all, and it's really, really just quite good. Now, this is the first Led Zeppelin album I've heard. It takes the only spot on the list. I haven't heard any other ones, so I can't really rank it. But overall, I do think that this album could be pretty high up there. It depends on if the band grows from this album or if they stick with sort of a similar vibe. Either way, it's likely to be good, so I'm pretty excited to listen to the rest of Led Zeppelin's work, but I am not sure if this is sort of the unpolished beginning of their career or if this is one of their really quite good albums, and I'll just have to listen to the other ones to see. Now, this album doesn't take my top spot from 1969. That stays with the Beatles' Abbey Road, which is definitely better than Led Zeppelin I. It's at the end of the Beatles' career, and you really can't describe this album, the Abbey Road, as anything but polished. It's sometimes over-polished, I think. Led Zeppelin, it does manage to compete a bit here. I can see a situation where someone likes Zeppelin better, but really, overall, Abbey Road is definitely better. It's definitely got just a lot more interesting stuff, and it also has some of the meandering that Led Zeppelin does. But I definitely think that Abbey Road is better. Now, next up is ABBA's 1974 album, Waterloo. This was their first sort of big hit album. It's their second album, and it is considered one of their better albums, so I'm relatively excited to review it. So, as always, stay minty.